Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is Friday, February 19th, and we have some sunshine out there. I'm super happy about that. We haven't seen much here in the Metro Detroit area here in Michigan. So, any case, and it's actually supposed to warm up in about a week from Sunday. It'll actually be in the 40s. So, we need to melt some of the snow. We've gotten a lot of snow. We're going to start the meditation at 10:02. Maybe I got in just a little late. Maybe just it'll be around 10:02. So if you want to skip ahead a minute or so, you can. Thank you so much for joining. I look forward to meditating with you. And for those of you just joining, we'll be starting the meditation in just about a minute, okay? All right. Thanks so much for joining. Thank you. Okay, I think we're going to go ahead and get started. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you for joining meditation. Wow, lately it's been very powerful for me lately. Upon reading a book by my teacher, Maharishi Sadashiva Asham, he went by MSI. I call him Sadashiva, and he wrote a book called now I'm trying to think of it. I don't actually have the cover of the book. The book peeled away, and there's only like the last third of the book, and it's just gorgeous. It's beautiful of how he writes it, and it's tied my other path in with Muji and Eckhart Tolle so beautifully. But the book is called Enlightenment, and it's authored by MSI, and it's just a wonderful book, and it's about the Ashaya Ascension meditation. But just listening to Sadashiva, he's been such a source of grace and just very gently, subtly in the background for me since 1998. So, any case, it's been touching my heart. It's just been making me feel grateful and really expanding me into consciousness more and more. And I'd love to continue to share that with all of you. So thank you for joining this morning. Let's meditate. And if you haven't already done so, just getting yourself nice and comfortable. And just taking in a nice deep breath. And just really being present here for this moment. There's nowhere you need to go. There's nothing you need to do. Just be here. Just be with me here right now. And I invite you to just let go of all of the past. All of the past. And letting go of all your worries about the future. And the more we can become comfortable with not knowing the answers and just being patient, knowing that God, trusting that God and life will provide you all solutions when it's right and divine timing. And so we are literally needlessly worrying. But who is worrying? It's really the mind. The mind is concerned that life is not going to play out the way it thinks it should play out. And of course, the mind has all these ideas of how life is supposed to play out, and has all these judgments about life and even God, as far as bringing things, experiences that sometimes the mind simply judges as bad or wrong. No. God, you messed up. You've messed up again. You fool, you fool. But this is the truth. I joke about it, but it really is the truth, is that the mind thinks it knows what happiness is. It thinks it knows better than God. And I'm not here to convince you or persuade you of God, what God is, what your relationship with God, whatever your higher source is, Jesus, Buddha, Krishna. It doesn't matter to me. It's just unimportant. Whatever that path is for you, but hopefully a path that is rooted in love, and the path of a sage is rooted in love, rooted in peace, rooted in joy, which is who you are at your very core essence. And so, of course, if you have a teacher, to lean on a teacher that exudes those very qualities. Lately, I've been having this clarity that I am not the doer. And there's a lot of things that we kind of get trapped in, that the mind has convinced us, and we've bought into it as to what we think the truth is. And all those beliefs that we've bought into, all those stories, all those self-images, the idea of who we think we are, who we think we should be, or how we should be, all these stories, all these scripts are all just an accumulation of ideas and beliefs that the mind has convinced us is true. And let's keep in mind that the mind is rooted in duality of good, bad, right, and wrong. And so it's always judging. It's always judging. It's judging ourselves. It's judging others. It's judging God. It's judging the world, because it thinks it knows best. But there's no way the mind can ever truly understand happiness or peace or love, because it's always in judgment. And even those times when it's not judging, well, let me say it this way. There's really not a time that it's not judging. It just may judge it as good, and then we're at so-called peace with it. But the peace is only temporary. The mind might say, oh, well, you did that really well, because it wants to boost its ego. It wants to build on a false foundation of who it thinks we are or who we should be. And so consequently, you might have a so-called good experience. But what happens next time when you don't meet the mind's expectations? Or what happens when somebody else is not living that expectation? The mind will be right back judging once again. So at best, we can only find temporary moments of joy, of peace, of love, because the mind is always judging, and you can never fully satisfy it. Never. And the good news is, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if we don't believe what the mind is saying. But the problem has been that we have bought into this story that says we are the ones doing the thinking. Right? If the mind says it, it must be true. And sometimes we know it's not true. I mean, anybody who is listening to this meditation right now, you have enough awareness, enough wisdom to recognize that when the mind says, you're not good enough, you will never amount to anything, we know that is a lie. But who knows that's a lie? Who knows that's a lie? The mind says, this guy is a complete idiot and I just want to punch him in the nose. But what keeps you from punching him in the nose? What keeps you from going over there and yelling at him, cursing at him? And you may do that sometimes, and that's your experience, and I'm not judging that one way or another. Your experience is your experience. But what I am saying is, let me pause for a moment. And those words are not flowing back through, so I'm going to let those go, and if they come back, they come back. And occasionally that happens where, I get distracted, which I felt myself fall away from the present moment. And so when I do that, sometimes the words do not flow because I'm not connected with who I am, which for me is a necessity to really express from that place. Every time that I prepare for my meditations, I pray to God and my other teachers and guides that support me, and I ask and I pray that I align with God in every thought, every word, and every deed, and that I may speak, lead, and teach from the core truth of who I am, and that I may be a zero in the process. And I pray that every morning before I meditate. And the truth is, sometimes I get caught in my own stuff. And sometimes, perhaps I'm used as an example. Is it bad that I stepped away from the present moment and I lost my way? No, it's not bad. It might be bad from the ego's perspective. Maybe the ego is afraid that I will look like a fool. Maybe the ego is afraid that people won't love me or approve of me. Maybe the ego is afraid that I'll lose people from this meditation and they won't join me. These certainly are all possibilities. But what's also a possibility is just to simply be an objective witness to those thoughts. Oh, okay. I see my mind has drifted. And I see that my mind, my ego, is afraid what people might think. It's okay. Why is it okay? Because I recognize that is not who I am. I am not the thought any more than you are your thoughts. And this is exactly what I wanted to share. So Spirit, in its wisdom, gave an example that we are not the thinker. We are not the thinker. And for so long we have believed this to be true. That we are the one doing the thinking. And so as I was reading this book, this enlightenment book by MSI, he spoke of the natural forces of the universe that bring you your experiences. And he went on to say, you are not your thoughts, you are not your feelings, you are not your perceptions, and you are not your actions. And the part that struck me, and I've had to read through this last section of the book a couple times, but the part that struck me is that I am not my actions. And so I've heard Muji talk about that we are not the doer, and I reflected on what that meant. And what awareness came to me is that when we lose these bodies, when we lose these minds, when we physically pass from this physical form back into the emptiness and the formlessness and the non-physical truth of who we are, we see that there's no way we can be the mind and the thinking that becomes the mind, because otherwise we would be finite. We would not continue after this. But I don't want you to just believe me to say that our life is eternal. I'm inviting you to explore with me that we empty out so completely that you can see and feel and experience that truth. You can have this awareness of this truth for yourself. And so it's my hope to just share with you in a way that you empty out so fully and so completely that you can see that you are not your thinking mind, and you are not the doer. You are not your emotions, and you are not what you perceive. You are beyond any perception. Anything that can be seen is not you, because you cannot be seen. You are the non-physical, conscious, aware, all of it. And so getting back to the action part, as the non-physical, conscious awareness of who you are able to simply be. Simply be. I don't even want to say in the stillness. You simply are the stillness. You simply are the silence. You simply are the emptiness. And you are the watcher of all of life that doesn't require anything physical at all. So no, you are not the one that is taking action. Now, with that said, we are in these physical bodies, and of course, God expresses itself through us. God expresses itself. Consciousness expresses itself through us. And I know it looks crazy sometimes. It looks crazy particularly from the mind's perspective and the ego's perspective, because they don't know anything beyond the physical. And they don't know anything beyond the duality of the mind. And they certainly don't know anything about the silence and the stillness of who you are. So if you ever wonder how it's possible that Jesus, that God, that Sadashiva, that any of the great master teachers, the sages, are able to just be. Like, how can God be at peace with the world? Completely no physicalness to God. Well, I can't pretend to know God or to speak for God. Although I have to say that I do my best to get my ego out of the way so that God's words can shine through. So let me backtrack a little bit. I think that was my ego popping in the way to say, God can speak in any way that he wants, and he certainly has permission with me. But in the stillness, in the quietness, in the silence, there is no action necessary to experience the peace, the joy, and the love of who we are. And of course, when I say that God's words are flowing through, it stirs up my own ego self, and it even stirs up feeling a bit blasphemous in some ways. And we may all have that certain kind of tinge when I say it or if you say it for yourself. But the truth is, if God is the ocean, we are a drop of water out of that ocean. We are part of the oneness with God. And that's why when Jesus says, the Father and I are one. And when he also says, you can do all things I've done and greater things, there is no limitations. The only limitations is the limitations we place on ourselves by believing that we are somehow tied in with the mind and the ego, and we're not the formless truth, where all things are possible. And the word that comes to my head is turmoil within myself. I'm not saying this for you. I'm noticing this for myself, but what I'm also noticing is that I'm a witness to that as well. It doesn't matter what goes on in our heads, in our life, all around us. The situation is never ever the problem. The thought is never ever the problem. The feeling is never ever the problem. Our perception is never ever the problem if we can simply witness it and realize that it is not the truth of who we are. And I contemplated this thing where I am not the doer, I am not the one taking action. And I just contemplated, if I'm not the one taking action, then who is taking action? God is expressing itself through us. What's also true is we have expressed ourselves many times from our person, from our egoic self. And so if you look back and see when you have, I'm going to say, fallen short, made mistakes, in the Christian tradition they speak of sinning, which certainly is different than what many people interpret it is, and you may know the definition Marianne Williamson, I heard her give a long time ago. Sinning is simply when the archers, back in the biblical days, when the archers missed the mark. We're not some horrible person because we've sinned. We simply missed the mark. That's all. But the truth is, when we're rooted in our core self, we don't miss the mark because we're in alignment with God itself. We can only miss the mark, we can only sin, we can only experience ourselves as broken or needing fixing based on the idea and the stories and the self-images of who we think we are. You can never hurt or diminish or attack the true self in any way. It's pointless. You can try, which of course would be pointless as well. But the only thing you can diminish, the only thing that anyone can diminish, is the idea of who you think you are. That's all. I'm noticing my mind being extra busy today. And it doesn't matter whether the mind has one thought or 1,000 thoughts when we are simply witnessing those thoughts from the core truth of who we are. Now, I want to also say the ego is also aware of those thoughts. The difference is the ego has judgment of the experience. It doesn't like the experience. Like I'm watching and noticing right now, my ego is saying, "Oh my God, I don't feel in my heart. I'm really messing up this meditation, and I hope people don't think bad of me." These are all things that the stories that I've accumulated over the years, that you have accumulated over the years, and the stories, and again, those stories, you can feel diminished. You can feel hurt. You can feel like you're not enough. But thankfully and beautifully, when you are a witness, not just to the thought, but a witness to the one who is aware of the thoughts, then you can still be at peace. And that is where home resides. That is where the present moment resides. Because the present moment is not dragging the past into the present, and it's not dragging the future into the present. It simply is flowing with life and does not need one single thing to be any different than what it is. If you do want something different than what it is, now you have brought the past into it, or the future. Because you're saying, wait a minute, I can't accept this present moment because of, and then you're going to throw in a past belief that says that this situation should be different than what it is. I don't like it. But again, that thought, that feeling does not matter if you can simply be a witness to that and not ask it to be any different than what it is. And I'm not going to lie to you, I practice this all the time, where I can feel myself being pulled into the stress. But immediately, what happens when I find myself being stressed, like, oh, okay, I'm identifying with some kind of false belief. So I'm identifying with some kind of thought, some kind of belief that isn't true, because at the core, I'm peaceful and I'm in joy and I'm in love. So anytime you feel stress, recognize that stress and remember that's not who you are. You are the one that is aware of the thought and aware of the feeling. And I also want to share right now, I can feel that there's still that part of me that is not liking this situation. And so when I find myself in that, where I'm not able to just be a witness to the thought, and particularly the feeling, this feeling right now of a little bit of angst, of stress, then what I do is I don't fight it. I simply embrace it. It's okay. Sometimes we are stressed. Don't fight the stress. Don't push it away. If it doesn't fall away naturally, just simply be aware of it. Just notice it and don't avoid the feelings. To deny the feelings is only to really deny life. And I've tried that many times, denying feelings. It does not work very well. It's much better to just be a witness to it, and if you still feel that it's there, then just invite it in. It's okay. I sometimes share that sometimes when I'm feeling grumpy, which if I'm being honest with you right now, I'm happy to say just doesn't happen very often anymore. I feel so grateful, so well taken care of. But when I am feeling grumpy and I'm noticing it's not falling away, even though I'm being aware of it, there's something I'm still holding onto that is not releasing and not letting go, I just say, okay, let me just be with the grumpiness then. And when you accept the grumpiness, guess what happens? you step into a place of peace because you're not resisting the grumpiness. And so you still step into a place of peace. And so I do have these experiences. We all have these experiences until we don't. That's very profound, right? We all have these experiences until we don't. But that's the truth. We don't need to push these experiences away or fight them or struggle with them or make them bad or wrong. This is just life unfolding as it needs to unfold. But I would share this. Just remember that God's grace is always with us. Always, always, always. Even right now, I just invite you just to allow in God's grace, God's compassion, God's love. And again, there's nowhere you need to go. There's nothing you need to do. Just simply breathe in. Just allow it in. God would gladly fill you with love, fill you with sunshine, fill you with peace, fill you with the bliss of God. Sometimes when I'm leading meditation, I feel myself wanting to fill the space with words. And as I continue to get more comfortable in the silence, I also recognize that it's important to sometimes just be silent and not say anything, and to know that in the silence, it's enough. And sometimes it's all that's needed. If your mind is drifted, just simply come back to the silence, or if you want, you can come back to just being aware of the breath, which wonderfully brings us back to the present moment and back home to who we are, the one who resides in the present moment, the one who flows with life and doesn't fight it or resist it, and the one who is conscious and aware of it all without needing to change any of it. And if your mind is drifted, just simply coming back to the present moment, coming back home to who you are. And if you don't feel you've returned home to who you are, just notice any thoughts around that. Maybe it's a thought, I want to return home, but I don't feel I am. No, something else has to happen in order for me to return home. I don't know what he means by home. I invite you just to release and let go of all of those thoughts, all of those limiting beliefs. In fact, I invite you just to empty out and let go of all the stories, all the self-images of who you think you are, all of what you would describe as you as a person, letting go of all of that. You are not a person. And you could have that experience of being a person for the rest of your life. I'm inviting you to not wait for your body to die in order to experience that you have never ever been a person. That has only been an idea of who you think you are, but has never ever been the truth. The truth of who you are has always been you and will always be you. And there's nothing you can do ever to get rid of you. Nothing. Nor is there anything you need to do to earn your way back to you. You don't need to do one single thing to earn your way back to you. There's no earning. It's just letting go of all these old conjured up beliefs that are blocking you from experiencing the very truth of who you are right now in this present moment. So if there are any stories about who you think you are as a person, I invite you just to let all of that go right now in this moment. And I also invite you to let go of waiting for something else to happen in order to return home to who you are. No. It's not even really a returning home. It's just when you empty out so completely, all that's left is being home. That's always been here. It's always will be here. And there's nothing you can ever do to get rid of that truth. You can only mask it and veil it with illusions and ideas that block you from recognizing that truth right now in this moment. And if you haven't already, just coming back to being aware of your breath, or back to the silence, back to the stillness. Just returning to the present moment and back to home, to who you are. if your mind has drifted, just coming back to being aware of your breath or whatever focal point, the stillness, the silence, whatever you choose to use. But I would also say, the more you can get comfortable with the stillness and the silence, the more you will get comfortable with being the truth of who you are, which is both stillness and silence, and is beyond any doing or action. to begin to bring this meditation to completion. So if you would like to continue meditating, please either mute or turn your device off. And thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me today for this meditation. And for those of you who are ready to finish, just taking a nice deep breath in. And just letting it go, and just making sure you're rooted and grounded in this physical form that gets us around, and just to be grateful for that. And just maybe moving, stretching your body a little bit. And taking your time and opening your eyes when you're ready. And let me say hi to some people out there. Let's see who we have. A good turnout today. I think we had a fair amount earlier there, but let's see here. I'm going to go over to Facebook if anyone wants time to. And whoops, opening your eyes. There we go. Cheryl Gronstedt. I don't know if you're still around, Cheryl, but good morning. Good morning. And let's see. Let me move this away a little bit here. And let's see. I don't see anybody else on here, so I don't know if Michelle's on there or not this morning. But anyhow, thank you for joining. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I'm also going to come over here to go over to YouTube and just see over here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And let's see here. And I don't see anybody that's saying anything. If they want to say hi, you're welcome to. And if not, that's completely fine as well. Or if there's any questions or comments. So I think that's about it. And let's see here. I'll just make sure there's nobody else over here. And so, okay, that's it. Thank you guys. Thank you for being with the meditation, and I will be on here 10 o'clock tomorrow morning if anyone wants to join. Okay? Thanks a lot. Namaste, my friends. Oh, Sandy? Okay, you got it in. Let's see here. I joined a bit late, but very good lesson again. Thanks, Sandy. I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. Have a beautiful day, my friend, and I'll see you soon. Enjoy the sunshine today. Happy about that. Okay.